I repeat, what are the major organizational changes you are witnessing in the new normal? So I will request Mr. Das to share his views on this question.
Sure, Chandrima. First of all, let me thank CII inviting me for this exciting, webinar. And I can see interesting discussion has already started with the eminent panelists that are on board. So, Chandrima, to start with, I think the term new normal, which we have been hearing and talking about it umpteenth number of times, I think I would prefer to call it the new abnormal. And there's a reason why I'm talking about the new abnormal instead of new normal. Whenever we use the term new normal, I think it means the current situation is taken for granted as normal, which I don't think everybody will agree that it is not. Okay, we at least should have a fair idea of what lies in front of us, which we don't. But when we try to imagine a post-COVID world of work, I think we expect it to recalibrate itself into a new abnormal from the current abnormal situation. So what's impossible for anyone to predict is the exact contours of the consumer behaviors and preferences or the resultant business landscape post this COVID phase. So in my mind, I think there will be two classes of people that will emerge in this process. One who believe that they can recoil back to pre-COVID kind of a scenario and reclaim back the past ways of doing things and managing their business. While the other group, I think they should take this opportunity to creatively disrupt things and innovate the future ways of doing things. I personally feel that, I don't think that we can think of recoiling back to the pre-COVID scenario, but I strongly believe that we would leapfrog into a much brighter future. So we need to create a leadership playbook with the future success behaviors to develop and succeed in this post-COVID kind of a new abnormal business scenario. Now, a few emerging trends at workplace, the specific questions that you asked. I think in my mind, it will become that as the new abnormal is embraced by the business world, we would see more of Gen Z entering the workforce and disrupting the status quo. At the same time, we'll have more flexible and remote work scheduling in terms of the work-life kind of an integration that will going to happen. More investments in employee well-being and inclusivity. I would see more fulfillment of social purpose to the job. There will be flexible workforce on multiple assignments in a gig economy, and the whole human capital re-engineering to optimize the outcome will happen with enhanced collaboration between man and machine. So I think it's likely that the new normal will also include a shift in the employer and employee preferences. This will include a shift towards skills rather than the educational background. For example, we might see a Uberization of the workplace. There will be flexibility of building your own work schedule. There will be demand for future digitally savvy work environment. And there will be modified organization structures leading to more empowerment in decision making. And most importantly, in my mind, the customer-centric design thinking-led organization mindset is going to emerge. So if we consider the age-old Kubler-Ross change curve in this kind of a scenario, I believe that we are still in the accepting phase. As organizations and society at large, we have accepted that change is inevitable. I think this is the time that we need to start working with those changes rather than against them. So in my mind, this is the most difficult yet the most exciting phase in any change management scenario. It's like a game of chess when you are working with incomplete information. So a competent chess player, for example, would think of 5 moves ahead, but would also make necessary adjustments with every move that the opponent makes. So similarly, in the current scenario, I think organizations also need to have the shared vision that helps them to navigate through this paradigm shift, and also must have the agility to make necessary adjustments on the go, like a game of chess.
Thank you so much, Amit. Thanks to all 3 of you for sharing deep insight on this topic. Amit has very important point you have touched upon. Your question whether this new normal is not new abnormal, whether actually we are at a normal time or the future is going to be abnormal, or it is normal, the very fundamental question which you have asked. And you have touched upon very interesting points like flexible workforce, enhanced collaboration, shift to skill, more education, empowerment, and a very interesting thought, which is my personal favorite, is customer-centric design thinking-based organization. Okay. Thanks so much to all 3 of you for sharing your insights. My next question is, what are the major challenges the organizations are facing now, as we are going through this unprecedented change. Many a times it happened. I've got call from my client companies, a young boy stuck somewhere in a one bedroom kind of a situation in a flat, somewhere in a remote location, saying that I don't know what to do. I can't spend so many hours inside the room. I'm feeling devastated. I'm feeling helpless. I don't know what to do. I'm stepping into my wife's space every now and then. I'm stepping into my children's space every now and then. So the problem is very, very real, Problem is real. The problem, as you rightly said, and Subir also said, the cash crunch problem, the fragile resilience problem, okay? And we really do not know which way we are moving. Definitely organizations are trying their best. Some organizations are on knee-jerk reaction. Some organizations are taking more time. But I really like that point when you said, yes, we need to engage with people, but we need to engage with them in a very truthful, honest, and transparent manner. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Amit, would you like to share your insight on this topic, please?
Sure, Chandrima. So while I agree most of the points that Akhil and Subir has mentioned, so in addition to that, I'd like to bring a new perspective in the question that you're asking in terms of the challenge. So if you have to reflect back in the last 1 decade, the direction in which the world was moving has got a massive jolt now due to this current crisis. Let's accept it. So companies like Uber had firmly established the community-driven shared travel, for example, as an obvious choice for travel or for all of us. The co-working companies like WeWork was driving the world of work through a collaboration and physical proximity. The accommodation provider like Airbnb had become the most popular choice amongst most of the global travelers because of the community living and social interactivity model. If you see the global travel as a category, it actually has grown at a compounded rate of 5% in the last 1 decade. Now, travel and tourism was in fact the second most popular discretionary spending by customers or consumers, only behind the spend that we had in dining across the world. So the point I'm trying to make is that the changing preferences of consumers led to this change in the business models in the last 1 decade or so. Where physical or social proximity was on the rise across the world. But this COVID-19 crisis has disrupted this trend completely. And suddenly, we are compelled to practice social distancing, which is diametrically opposite to the social proximity that we have been embracing as a business model in the last decade or so. Now, irrespective of the recent COVID-related crisis, I think the business landscape has already become very highly dynamic in the new VUCA normal environment. So different elements of this VUCA business ecosystem need to be considered as challenges, and we need to have adequate organizational agility to convert them into opportunities. We have already seen the emergence of, for example, the fourth business model, which we now call the network orchestrator. We have already seen the emergence of companies like Uber and Airbnb as part of this fourth business model expansion plan. Business lifecycle itself has shrunk from an average of 35 years to 18 years for Fortune 500 companies in the last 50 years. In the same period, 85% of those Fortune 500 companies have completely disappeared from that list. So the point I'm trying to make is the business sustainability has itself become so challenging for global corporations. The world of business has become more and more interconnected and boundaryless. The customer expectation today is driven by 3 things: choice, convenience, and cost, which needs to be catered in a hyper-personalized manner. So in a knowledge-driven network organization structure that we'll see today, the digital disruptions have transformed the way we do business, where technology has become the force multiplier to scale up human intelligence and as well as productivity. So we are witnessing an interesting world of business where the big ones are no longer eating up the small. It's the fast and agile ones who are gobbling up the slower ones. The other critical component of this dynamic business ecosystem in my mind is the fast-changing mix of multi-generational talent with varying learning and engagement needs, their career aspirations, and obviously the workplace priorities.
So that's really interesting, Amit. Your presentation, your thoughts on disruption to HR renewal.
Subba Rao is asking how to leverage and increase employee productivity and creation through digitization.
Okay. So
thank you, Subir.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so as I mentioned when I spoke about this digitization that or the disruption that's happening, where we are using technology as a force multiplier, I think more and more we need to look at the collaborative play between man and machine. And that's the reason why at times I say instead of looking at ROI, we should look at ROIP. And what do I mean by ROIP? It is basically return on improved performance. And that improved performance or the incremental delta of the performance will come from the additional infusion of technology, which will redefine the productivity metrics. So what I'm saying is going forward, the job of human resource professionals would be not only to manage humans, but the right interplay between man and machine. So we have to bring in more humanness in the way we manage the machine going forward. I think that is the only way we can ensure, pushing up the productivity going forward and help the organization to embrace the digitalization and move up the digital maturity curve. And the extent to which we move up the digital maturity curve will depend on the degree with which we embrace SMAC. I'm sure all of you understand SMAC, the social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. The degree to which we can embrace SMAC, the various elements of SMAC, will actually help us move up the digital maturity curve. For example, the roles that will be having in future will be very, very different from the roles that we have today. And that will primarily emanate from the changing aspiration of the new age workforce. Gone are those days when a person will join the organization and look for lifelong employment. They will be looking for life in the job. And at any given point of time, they'll be looking for a portfolio career. And what does that mean? It means that I'll be able to dabble with multiple assignments, irrespective of whichever function I'm in. I'll be able to dabble with multiple assignments across the cross-functional play and manage in a project-driven kind of an organization structure where we all congregate together, come together, and get dismantled once the project is over. I think that's the kind of future that we are looking at. And unless we embrace the right technology, we will not be able to create that interconnectedness and derive that ROIP, which I just mentioned.
Another thing I really like, Subir, which you said is customized communication. And you have ample example of that, saying that, how you have customized, you have realized that general communication doesn't really touch people and their heart, and how you have gone about customizing your content and communication. Great learning from you and your organization, Tata Power. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I will like to move on to Amit. Okay, Amit, my question to you is that if you share your insights on this presentation, the organizational capabilities required to flourish in the new normal world and time groups preparedness for the same.
Sure. So am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm sure most of you have read this book by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, who wrote in his book Anti-Fragile: Things That Gain from Disorder, where he provided extremely valuable insights, I think, which are very, very relevant for us in today's times. What he said was that some things that benefit from shocks, they thrive and grow when exposed to volatility, randomness, and uncertainty. So he called it anti-fragility, which is beyond resilience and robustness. And this resilient, he said, resists shocks and stay the same. But the anti-fragile, they get better with shocks. So hence the overarching learning and development objective, which you just asked me to share, of today's business organization is to make future-ready and anti-fragile organizations, where we can enable it to be more resilient and demonstrate a proactive responsiveness to withstand that shock and change for the better. I think a change for the better is a key in what Taleb mentioned in his book of Anti-Fragility. So investing in learning agility is no longer an option for us, but a necessity in today's world of business. Now, the starting assumption for any organization in my mind to become more resilient for future disaster is to assume that none of them happened in the past, or none of the experiences that you had in the past will work for you in the future. So I think strongly that is no point practicing those responses to those past catastrophes. At the same time, I think we need to invest building future competencies like learning agility, critical thinking, cognitive diversity, creativity and innovation, managing multiple stakeholders, and of course, design thinking, which I mentioned about. At the same time, we need to constantly push up the digital savviness in the organization so that we can embrace the right technology to scale up the cognitive intelligence and at the same time, employ productivity and experience. So, fortunately, there are intense and interesting ongoing discussions about the future of learning. Thankfully, the consensus is that there is a need for lifelong learning and continuously acquiring new skills to take up tasks of greater complexity. However, one of the biggest challenges that I find is to ensure that the responsibility of learning and development has to be co-owned between the employees and the organization. So the other challenges in a gig economy, the millennials are, as I mentioned, are looking for a portfolio-based career with diverse career options and enhanced flexibility. So which all organizations in my mind has to effectively support through this equally flexible and agile learning and development ecosystem. So now coming specifically to Times Group, as part of the media business ecosystem, we are seeing that we are at an inflection point in our storied history. Never has the market landscape seen as dynamic a change as we are seeing today. Every business, whether it's print, television, radio, outdoor media, is seeing a rapid disruption in their respective markets driven by digital. Fundamentally, the consumer behaviors are changing. Consumers are spending more and more time in the digital world. The competitive landscape is changing. And the global giants are competing in all digital media businesses, be it advertising, music, or video. The incremental approaches to organizational transformation are unlikely to keep pace with today's rate of change. So the bold and authentic leadership blended with an agile mindset has to become the need of the hour. Now, the Indian economy also is adopting digital at a very, very, very breakneck pace, causing a series of disruptions in all directions. The digital disruptions and the ecosystem that we have in the media will transit many manual tasks, and we are already seeing that happening, to cost-efficient machines and algorithms. So this would pose enhanced challenges for people who aren't comfortable or capable of learning new things. The digitalization of the media industry has driven primarily by the demand for instant access to customized content anytime, anywhere by the customers. Now, the newsroom analytics, for example, the live streaming of digital content, the social analytics, these are all game changers in our industry, which is redefining the digital-led innovation roadmap for this entire media industry. Today's millennials are highly excited, I find, to be part of this digital transformation journey, which provides endless opportunities. And media organizations like us need to leverage this appetite for embracing this new technology and drive a seamless transition. So we must choose the right intuitive technology for high adoption, identify the internal evangelists for accelerated buy-in, help employees understand what is in it for them, and customize the training modules, highlight the quick wins, and reward the desired behaviors, which helps them adopt the right people technology. So in this dynamic environment today, I think a constantly shifting media landscape has given rise to new roles and placed a premium on a different set of skills. So on one hand, media companies are adopting a direct consumer model, where content is the key differentiator, and they are also looking for new modes of monetization by entering into strategic alliances and partnerships. So in today's environment, it is extremely important for us to not only adopt an agile mindset, but more importantly, to break free from the legacy structures and ways of working. So it's important that we consistently adopt and adapt and align to the business needs, form the right teams with the right skill sets, with clear focus on the objectives at hand. And also, we have to keep in mind some of the key steps taken by us as part of the people agenda. So as an organization, I think the steps that we are taking going forward is to continue to build a robust talent and leadership pipeline, leverage the technology to drive the employee experience and productivity, having a robust communication strategy to drive employee alignment with the organizational imperatives, and of course, as I had mentioned, and you also reinforced the fact that design thinking mindset throughout the organization. and futuristic capability to build those futuristic capabilities like client solutioning, integrated digital competency, and business acumen. So with the ever-changing workplace scenarios, it becomes imperative for us to consciously invest in a robust program that aims to identify high potential employees within the company and then make disproportionate investment in their development journey to fast track them in the career. So also at the same time, as a compassionate and caring organization, we always focus on creating an impact at the workplace, especially when it comes to well-being of our employees. And thanks, Subir, for sharing such a nice presentation, what you did during these times. We have created many programs to enhance the wellness quotient in the organization. The purpose and meaning are extremely important in today's environment, especially when it comes to the millennials. So while it is important for our employees to embrace the purpose-driven mindset as they go about their work, it is also extremely important to provide a platform to connect them to their individual purpose. So we have leveraged, and that's why we have leveraged technology to provide that online platform to our employees for various opportunities of making a societal impact. So as we move on, I think we'll continue with our people agenda to attract the right talent, to enrich and engage, the performance and innovation-driven culture, and organizational effectiveness. But keeping in mind the dynamic business ecosystem, I think we have embraced the theme of creating an agile and anti-fragile HR to create a future-ready workforce for a business success.
So, Amit, for your deep insight. You know, I was mesmerized when I was sort of listening to you. And some of the things you have said it so nicely. I like this anti-fragile organization and proactive resilience. I think these are the two key words for future. You know, before you started, Pinky Kumari asked a question. I did not purposely pick up the question. She asked about what are the capabilities which will be required in the post-COVID era. So I knew your presentation will cover a lot of it. You know, Pinky Kumari, why I didn't pick up your question, because I knew Amit will cover it. And he said it so nicely, so clearly. I mean, nothing can be more apt. You know, things like learning agility, cognitive diversity, design thinking. I think this is the way to be. You know, design thinking is something we got to invest in. Learning agility. This is something, if we do not have, an organization doesn't have this capability, an individual doesn't have this capability, you are doomed forever in the future. You know, the kind of world we are going to witness. Managing multiple stakeholders, digital dexterity. In every word Amit said, it came out again and again, digital capability, digital dexterity. You know, dexterity is my word, I'm saying, Amit said digital capability. I think, Amit, equally the mindset is important. It is not only skill and the knowledge, it is the mindset, and that three put together, I call it digital dexterity. And business acumen, client-centric solution. So fantastic, Amit, you know, you have given us a very deep insight about what are the organizational capabilities which are required for tomorrow in the post-COVID era, and how your organization Time Groups is getting ready for that. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you. So as an HR leader of a large media conglomerate, I think I have the onerous responsibility to help the organization conduct business with a heart and conscience. And I think it's an ethical responsibility to continue demonstrating our core values while managing the lives as well as livelihood of our employees. So the challenge is to navigate and delegate. The challenge that I have in my mind is how do I navigate and I know this delicate and sensitive terrain of being compassionately ruthless. I think this was mentioned by Akhil as well, in taking certain difficult people decisions and to manage our cost structure, to manage business sustainability and also continuity of our larger employee community. I think that's the dilemma that at times pose a challenge to me as a person or as an HR leader of this large media conglomerate.
I have another question for three of you. You know, a lot of things we are talking about. We talked about during last almost 2 hours now, 1 hour, 45 minutes. We talked about psychological isolation, trust building, trust deficit, you know, people managing leaders managing team remotely, yet engaging them. Frequent communication is breaking barriers of hierarchy, and so on and so forth. All these things are happening. In this, do you see there's a culture change which is happening in the organization and that's going to stay here? So we will see more and more of that in corporate, which we are not so very used to. Maybe some of the industries are getting used to that. So given this background and all that we are discussing for last almost 2 hours, do you see a change in organizational design, the structure of the organization, the design of the organization? And by the way, this is also this question from Pinky Kumari, which I did not take it up earlier. She also asked this question. Over to
Sure. See, as we see the organizations become more and more agile, the structure will be becoming much more flatter. Will become much more interconnected, collaborative, and at the same time flexible. So this obviously will encourage more of experimentation, creative disruptions, and faster decision making. So more and more we'll see that the span of control will get enhanced and the layers will start getting crashed as part of the future project-based organizational design. And that's what my belief is.
Okay. Thank you. So future would be project-based organization and
With lower spans and larger layers.
sorry, say once again. I missed your last.
The span of control will get increased and the layers will get crashed.
Absolutely.
I take this one step forward. I said, more than gender diversity, we will find all forms of diversity in play going forward. And going forward, when we are talking about a hybrid work arrangement, I think more than gender diversity, where there will be a lot of changes in the societal norms when women need not take those kind of maternity breaks, what today they have to take, and for which the organizations have to make certain policy changes. You will find other forms of diversity. For example, people who are differently able, they will come to the workplace. And when we are giving them that opportunity and flexibility to have remote modes of working,
they will work. Why not?
Brilliant. Are your key learning while experiencing this pandemic, whether health pandemic or economic pandemic? Amit, what do you say?
See, I think I am facing or experiencing as if, this kind of a turbulent times. It's like we are stuck in a ship in the midst of rough waters. So we need unusual wisdom to navigate through these unusual times. Say, for example, the kind of action and behavior that I demonstrate as a leader, or I, influence other leaders in the organization to demonstrate, would actually help us be remembered by our employees or our prospective employees even in future. Because specifically the way you behave and act in a crisis is what makes you be remembered in future as well. So the other thing as an individual, I think, is that we have to continue to be adaptable, open-minded, flexible, which will eventually make us emerge as a winner, not only in our professional space, but also in the personal space.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for sharing so much, all three of you. And it has been really, I feel blessed. I feel so good to be a part of this discussion along with all of you.